Hey guys, welcome and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Jamie and this video is for you if you have any plans to take an aerial class or even like a contortion class or a pole dancing class overseas in a foreign language. Or even if you don't have any recent plans to go overseas, if you're still interested in the experience, I would love if you could stick around and thank you for being here. Here are the table of contents for today's video. I'm first going to give a brief introduction of myself, why I currently live in Italy, and why I'm making this video today. And because this is going to be a two-part video series, in this part, which is part one, I'm going to be talking more about the informative stuff, like how to find a studio, how to reach out, and what to prepare before your first class. And if you are interested in the second video, I'm going to be talking more about my personal experience here in Italy and what my first class at my circus school was like and how things have changed then. Because, spoiler alert, I was pretty miserable the first week of class, but it's better now. So if you are interested in that video, I would love if you could consider subscribing, and if the video is already out, it will be linked in the description of this video. So let's get started. So my name is Jamie and I am 26 years old and I currently live in northern Italy with my husband Chris, my dog, and my cat. I am Japanese/American-ish, and I do not speak Italian, and nor does my American husband. But we are here for his job assignment, and we'll be here for, I think, it's about to be a year now, and we're going to be here for a few more years. I'm currently training as an aerialist, so I do go to a circus school here despite the language barrier, which is going to be a big topic of this video. And like I said, I am Japanese and I do speak Japanese. So I've lived in Japan before, I've trained there before, and it was interesting seeing non-Japanese speakers take aerial lessons there and kind of seeing the opposite side of the situation back then, if that makes sense. And before we get into the main part of this video, I do want to say that this video is based on my personal experiences, so yours are most likely going to be a little bit, if not vastly different from mine, but that's totally normal, and if that is the case, I would love to hear about your experiences, so please let me know. So when looking for a studio, the first thing I'm going to talk about is search engines, and I'm going to tell you that my favorite is actually Google Maps. I personally like Google Maps because not only when you search a keyword like aerial silks will it look through the names of the locations and the descriptions, but it will also go through all of the reviews on that place. So let's say there's actually a pole dancing studio, a gymnastics gym, or even like a rock climbing gym. If any of those locations nearby happen to have aerial silks classes available and people have written reviews on it, then those will most likely show up in your results as well. I do also like using Instagram, but I like to avoid Instagram for the initial searching process because Instagram will show you the name of the city but not show you the actual location unless you click on that city and open up a map. If you're not familiar with the area you're moving or traveling to yet, it's kind of hard to tell how close or far that's going to be from your original location. For example, this is the Instagram page for the circus school I go to. On the location it says HOODIE, Italy. And before moving here, or even for the first month of moving here, I wouldn't have known if that was 30 minutes away, an hour away, or like 7 hours away in Rome. All right, I have two tips on searching for a location. Number one, search in the language that they speak there. So if you're going to Italy, search in Italian. If you're going to Japan, search in Japanese. And I learned this the hard way. When I first found out that I was moving to Italy, I knew what area I was going to be in. So I looked on Google Maps to see if there were any aerial classes nearby, which there weren't. All of them were at least an hour away. And I was like, dang, that's a bummer, but we also live in the countryside, so I wasn't surprised and I kind of just gave up there, not expecting much, basically. And fast forward to when we moved here, my dumb brain thought, oh my god, maybe since they speak Italian here and not that much English, maybe I should look up the word aerial silks in Italian and I'll find some places. And ding ding ding, it worked, and there were at least 3 within a 30-minute radius, even though ironically I did end up going with a place that's over an hour away from my house, but that's a story for a different time. But like I said, some things might not come up in English. You might be used to looking up stuff in English, but there's a good chance that you'll find more options if you search in the language that they predominantly speak. All right, tip number 2 is not to narrow down your options during this stage of looking. So you might find a place that looks fantastic on Instagram, you might find a place that looks amazing on Google Maps, but just because you found that one cool place, don't stop looking for others, and don't just get rid of all your search history, even though I'm pretty sure you won't do that. Just have an open mind and have a few options available, and I'll talk about this in the next part. Hey guys, sorry, future Jamie cutting in. I forgot to mention that this hoodie that I'm wearing today that says train hard, bruise harder, because you know that's how circus is. You bruise, but you worked hard for it, so you're proud of it. But anyways, this is actually from our family small shop website, designsbypump.com, where we sell a bunch of circus and dance and fitness related merch. So if you are interested in these, I do have them linked in the description as well. Anyways, back into the main video. So you've looked up your options, and hopefully you have at least like 2 or 3 options. I know depending on where you're going, that might not be the case. But stage 2 is reaching out. And my favorite way, and my number 1 suggested way to reach out, is by DM. The great thing about social media is that nowadays a lot of aerial studios, circus schools, all these places have their own Instagrams or Facebook pages, and it's really easy to just DM. I personally prefer over calling or showing up in person, especially if language is going to be an issue, because with texting, you have time to form your sentences, Google Translate to form your sentences, and the other side, the studio side, also has time to do the exact same. So I think it's just less complicated and less anxiety provoking, because I just don't like having problems in general. So I just suggest doing that. It's also much easier than just emailing or finding a contact us form on their website. So when DMing them, I like to ask these 4 questions over here, not necessarily in one single text, but throughout the conversation. So when I reach out to new studios, especially if language is going to be an issue, I like to use a specific template that I've used multiple times in the past. And obviously there is no right answer to how to reach out to someone. Just be yourself. But if you're kind of lost and not knowing what to do, I'm going to share this with you guys in case you want to use it as is or as inspiration. Now, the part in the beginning in red is actually going to be in whatever language they speak there. So in my case, it'll be Italian. If you're moving to Japan, it would be in Japanese. I like to do this because I want to show them that I'm not being ignorant and that I really do respect their culture and language. This isn't necessary, but it's just something I like to do. And even as a Japanese person, if someone who doesn't speak Japanese came up to me and said like hello in Japanese or tried their best to say whatever they can, it would make me feel happy because I would feel like they're really enjoying the country or culture. But again, optional. On the other hand, I like writing the rest of the message in English. And here's why. I think it's really important that they know that you don't really speak the language, provided you don't. If you do, no problem. But I don't speak Italian, and by writing the whole message in Italian, I didn't want them to get the message that I speak enough Italian to form sentences. I want them to know that I really don't speak Italian. I really wanted them to know that I don't speak the language well at all. And so if language is going to be a problem, I would like to know now. And I know you can always use Google Translate. You may have friends that are fluent in that language, but unless that friend is coming with you to class every single time, you're not going to be using Google Translate during those lessons. So I think it's really good to be clear that you really are going to be struggling with that language. Likewise, if I was a Japanese receptionist at an aerial studio and someone reached out to me in Japanese, even if it was broken Japanese, if the whole thing was written in Japanese, I'm going to think that you speak some Japanese. But if you wrote in English, I'd be like, okay, so this person probably tried their best for the beginning part, but they ultimately don't speak the language. So if I think that's going to be a problem, or if I think I can suggest an English class to them, if that's something they offer, then I would do that because, yeah. And here's the thing, with language, and also one of the questions being about the system and the payment systems, this is why you want at least 2 to 3 options on the first stage, because you never know if a place is going to work out for you. So for example, with the circus school that I currently go to, I actually reached out to them, I think May of 2023, but didn't start until September of that year. And it wasn't because of me, it was actually because I found out through DMing them that they only do their classes and registrations per year. So there was no way for me to take a singular class and pay for that. It was, I sign up for the whole year or I don't. But they are closed for the summer. So as of May, if I had gone there and really wanted to take classes, my only option would have been to pay for the entire year just for it to end mid-June. So I would be paying for a whole year just to stay a month, which would be ridiculous. And that's what they suggested to me. They said, hey, our year's about to end. You can come back for our trials in September and you could do the whole year from then. So I was like, oh, bet. And that's what I ended up doing, because I was gonna stay here for multiple years and I wanted to find a good place. But if this was just me on vacation, there's no way I would have been able to go there, because I wasn't gonna pay for a whole year just for a few classes. All right, so through DMing, I'm hoping you found a place that you're willing to go to, and hopefully they explain to you how to sign up and whatever else you need. And once that's been done, all you have to do is wait for the day to come. But seeing as it's a new place and a new language, you might be really nervous and wondering how you can prepare. What words should I learn before showing up to class? So I have 3 main categories, and the first one is numbers. If it's not obvious, numbers are used all the time in aerial classes, or probably any kind of fitness related classes, to refer to the number of sets, the number of times you do something, all that jazz. Based on my experiences, I personally feel like the numbers 1 through 10 and the number 20 are used the most frequently. So I would say start with those, but if that is too overwhelming for you, or you have your class coming up tomorrow, I totally understand that's a lot to remember. So if that is the case, I would go with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, and 20. Again, if you've taken classes before, your classes may have used other numbers more frequently, but I'm just telling you that that's what I hear all the time. So take it or leave it, you know? All right, the next thing that you can prepare is body parts. Specifically, your head, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, legs, knees, and feet. I know that's quite a bit, but those are super useful because teachers are going to be using body parts all the time to refer either to how to do something like a demonstration, or they're going to be talking about what to be careful of. And I know it's really hard because you're not going to understand every other word they say, but just knowing what body part they're talking about is going to help your visual stimulation and help you know where you should be looking to understand as much as you can what they're trying to tell you. All right, the last category for words you can prepare are left and right. That's it. I know in Italian it's sinistra and destra, and that's it. But it's also really useful because when you're watching demonstrations, especially on silks, it's so hard to tell if they're using their left leg or their right leg or hand or arm. It's just gonna be really useful to know. And here's the thing, I had 3 categories today, but there's a lot more, but it's enough to be its own video, so I'm just gonna cut it there for today, but let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. All right, we're already at stage 4. We've made it so far. Stage 4 is actually only if you're going to be staying somewhere mid to long term. So if you're only going there for vacation, this might not be relevant, but that sounds super freaking fun, so have fun on your vacation. Anyways, step 4. Set a duration that you're gonna push through even if it's hard. And some people might not need this stage, but I do, so I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna start off by saying that I'm an incredibly anxious person. I do not like being lonely. I do not like being lost. I do not like being alone. And so starting an aerial class overseas, especially if I don't speak the language there, is like an absolute nightmare for me. And I'll talk more about this in the second video, but I was very miserable the first few classes that I had here. And I really wanted to quit. Not because anyone was being mean to me or anything. It was all in my head mostly. And it really made me not want to do it. But at the end of the day, I'm so glad that I stayed. And the way that I stayed was by telling myself, okay, I'm gonna try this for 3 months even though it hurts my soul. And if at 3 months it doesn't get better, I can quit and I'll be fine because at least I gave it a shot. It ended up being that by the time it hit 3 months, I was fine. And not only was I fine, but I was so grateful for one of the classes that I especially disliked at first. It's probably one of my favorite classes now because I learned so much from it. And if I hadn't persevered and kept going those first few months, I wouldn't have, gotten where I am now. And I'm really grateful that I kept pushing. I'm not saying you should jeopardize your mental health because that is really important. And I don't think it's you know, you really have to think about whether it's worth jeopardizing your mental health or how bad it is for you. So I'm not forcing you to do anything, but I will tell you that if you are able to push yourself, it makes it easier to set a specific time frame, because in your head you're thinking, this is hard, but at least at 3 months I can still quit if I need to. And that thought process really helped me push through, because it's better to know when there's an end than not knowing when it's gonna end. All right, so those were actually the 4 stages of preparing to take an aerial class overseas in a foreign language. I hope I didn't blab on for too long. That is something that I struggle with, talking too much, but I hope that you stick around for part 2, where I will be talking about my experiences in Italy, and you can hear about how terrible it was at first, but mostly in my head, so don't be discouraged. It was really just in my head. And I'm a very, very anxious person, so if you relate, I'm sorry. But if not, you're just gonna be like, oh, that's not bad at all. But anyways, if you're interested, I would love if you could consider subscribing and be on the lookout for that video. If not, it's in the description. I would really appreciate if you could like this video if you like the video, and I'll see you soon. Bye!